New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Allie Benjamin and it is my great joy to be here today. I am smiling and I'm feeling a lot of joy inside me. I don't know why, because my guest today was having technical issues and my producer was unable to get him on. And so we brainstormed for about half a second, and 11 minutes late, here we are. And we decided to do our Growing Edge Live episode today together. So Michael, my beloved producer, Reverend Michael Mangus, why don't you jump on and join me? Hello, hello.
Well, hello there. Gosh, I get to be on Growing Edge Live.
You do.
Wow.
You do.
Yeah. Now, yeah. Well, your Michael's much nicer than me.
Oh, well, yeah, I have,
He really...
a lot of Michaels in my life.
You have a lot of angels around you.
I do. I absolutely do. I am blessed. My husband is an angel. Yeah. Then there's Archangel Michael. And then there's you, my producer here at New Thought Media Network. I'm so grateful for you. I know I always try and slip in a word of gratitude at the end of the show, but I haven't really acknowledged you and the support you give me and our viewers as you put together the show. You share information in a visible way so people know how to get in touch with our guests. And you do a lot of work that I can't even wrap my head around, but thank you.
Yeah, and it just seems for me, it just, like kind of that skill set of being able not only to work with the technology, but also to work with individuals and people. So for me, this really goes, this whole working with New Thought Media Network goes along with my life mission. And that is not only to build local community, but also to get this message out to the world. And that this network really, for me, it aligns with those values. So that's the reason why I've worked with Robert here for the past 3 years and will continue to do so in the future. We have a great opportunity of taking a very practical spirituality to the whole world using the internet. Whereas before, if we were to use, for example, like satellites or even shortwave radio, we wouldn't have been able to do that at a cost-effective place to be able then to get the message out. But we're able to do this now, and it feels for me, I just feel so blessed to be able to help wonderful individuals like you, your bright light, to get the message out there. So and this is not my idea. What do they say? Tell God your plans and he'll laugh at you, or something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. I never. Just a little background on me. I went ahead and I've been a Science of Mind practitioner since 1999. I've been involved in the teaching since the late 90s. I ran our teaching chapter, which is a special, for those of you who are not familiar with Centers for Spiritual Living, teaching chapters are allowed to exist. They operate like a center, but usually that they don't hold Sunday services. They just do classes, and they do other activities. So they don't have a licensed or ordained minister. Usually when there's a center in Centers for Spiritual Living, there's usually an ordained or licensed minister. All right, so here I am as a practitioner running a spiritual center for like 16 years, and I had the opportunity then to go to Holmes Institute in 2016 when Reverend Dr. C.C. Coltrane went ahead and instituted a teaching center of Holmes Institute at her church in Dayton. Mm-hmm. So we were able then to, I was completely done with working with my county job for 32 years as a tax collector.
Oh,
so well, yeah. And then, we'll talk about that. When people pay their taxes, the energy of when they go ahead and they give you their money, it's an interesting energy. But getting back, so individuals in CSL had been wanting me to get the ministerial training, so I was able to go back. However, and so what brings the story about around was that I thought for me that ministry would be getting a center to maybe kind of pursue kind of the broadcast on the side, and getting that weekly or monthly stipend, and getting your conferences paid for, and all that all that good stuff. And what it's ended up to be was that to be producing here on this network, and that after talking with individuals, when you are licensed in Centers for Spiritual Living, you are first licensed. You go through a licensing panel, and then there's 3 years that you are mentored and also are under another minister. So my mentor and I, we've talked hours about what am I supposed to do. Here I had this idea for ministry, which was, have a church, do it that way, do it the brick and mortar way. And then COVID came, and the church I was at, unfortunately, had to let me go. So what do you do now? And so
COVID changed a lot of churches and a lot of people's lives in general, as they had to rethink their work and not being able to go to work. And, a lot of people went online. And so I can see it changed for me, because we were conducting Sunday services. We were in brick and mortar, and I was actually serving 2 pulpits. And so, that was a certain lifestyle. And then COVID, and then we just went straight onto doing Facebook lives and YouTube lives and Instagram lives. And then we can talk about this in a bit, but then eventually I found New Thought Media Network, Robert Brzezinski, who is the owner of that organization and the lead minister there. And I know you work with him. Yes. And so you and I, although it's different, COVID interrupted our ministries and took us in a whole new direction. So here you are. This is your ministry now.
Yes, this is what I do. I mean, I also assist my wife, Diana, who is she is an emeritus practitioner with Centers for Spiritual Living. She is the spiritual director of our teaching chapter here in Akron, Ohio, of which we do have a very active chapter. We meet online at least every week. Last week we had a holiday gathering. So we have Science of Mind students here in the Akron area, and that the teaching chapter the teaching chapter is supervised by Reverend Dr. Robert.
Mm.
So we had to come up with, so my job here from New Thought Media Network is just to be a help to the spiritual director.
Awesome.
and to stay out of her way.
So I would love, I've never had an opportunity to really get to know you other than talking about the show and, little snippets each week as we join together before the show for about 15 minutes. But we're typically talking about my show, my guests, and you're always there behind the scenes for a whole hour. So you've witnessed me doing this podcast for a year and a half now. And so we know each other, but we don't know each other. Mm-hmm. And we live in different parts of the world. You're in Ohio, I'm in Utah. And so where have you always lived in Ohio?
Yes, I was born and raised here in Akron. I went to college here in Akron at the University of Akron. And then I think it was like 3 years in, I was kind of tired of college. So I said, why don't I go into radio? So I moved out. I found a job in a little town called Salem, Ohio, which is around 50 miles southeast of here.
Isn't that where the witches were burned?
No, that's Salem, Massachusetts.
Sorry.
I know that Salem. Yeah, Salem. The translation of Salem is a city of peace.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
City of peace. So.
Well, I'm sorry about the witches that died in the city of peace.
So anyhow, so I worked in Salem for a while, and then got married, wife number one, and then we moved back to Akron. I got a job working for the local government, used in the tax department, like I said, but I always had kind of this burning desire about ministry, and really what brought me forward with this. I mean, it kind of reminds me of that story from the Old Testament about Jonah and the whale. Okay. So here God had told Jonah to go to Nineveh to preach the gospel there, to have them repent. And Jonah says, heck to the no, I'm not going. And so what happened was, again, he got swallowed by the whale. And so three days later, then, it's hey, listen, now I'll go. So that's the same story with me. I mean, I did not want to be in ministry. I'm telling you, this was the farthest idea from my mind.
But wait, hold on. You said it was always in the back of your mind. So what exactly was in the back of your mind? Because you referenced the Bible. So
yes,
checking that. Mm-hmm. So what was your spiritual life? How did you move from, all of this college and growing up in Ohio and going into radio and all of that to, So was there always a spiritual component in your experience?
Absolutely, yes. I had a born again experience being a Catholic, which is kind of rare. Back in the 70s, I was involved in the charismatic renewal community here in the Akron area, and that myself and the community, we had a falling out around 79, 1980, and then I decided to move. And that what I did before wasn't working with the Catholic Church and also with the charismatic renewal. So I started exploring and I started reading. Mm-hmm. And so I finally found Unity. I found New Thought. And basically that's where I've been since. And that the first thought of ministry came when I went to Eastern Conference here in Ohio back in like the early 80s. And it was in the back of my mind, but I kept, again, giving excuses and kind of saying, well, I don't want to do ministry. I'll stay in New Thought, but I don't want to do ministry. So in the 90s, I had a breakup of a relationship, and I was coming back from the West Coast, and I was in Boulder, Colorado. And I was just kind of thinking to myself, here I've done all this work, all this internal work, through 12-step programs, through therapy. I just remember myself just walking on the street, and I said, okay, God, now what should I do with the rest of my life? And that's when the word ministry came up.
How old were you at that point?
I was 29, 30.
Oh, wow. You were young.
I'm 65 now, but but that was back in 1995, 1996. So once I just said, okay, I'll do it. Then I became involved in a local center in the Cleveland area, which was primarily African-American.
Wait, hold on. What was going on in Boulder? You mentioned Boulder. Why was that significant?
Because that was just the place it happened.
Well,
I was
you were just eating a donut or out for a meal?
Well, I was in Boulder because when I was coming back, I was taking a look at maybe attending Naropa Institute, which is now Naropa University. So I was taking a look at seeing, well, maybe I could again get a bachelor's degree, or it was one of those it was one of those places where I thought that'd be kind of cool to, not only to go visit, but just to kind of go. Mm-hmm. So I was staying at the hostel there, and first time in a hostel. And so I'm staying there. And again, I was just walking, not with a donut, but I was just walking down the street, and I just, again, just saying, okay, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And that's, again, when the word ministry came up. So then I said, okay, I surrendered to this. This is what I'm going to do.
So you were already in a place where you had a connection with your higher power. Yes. And you were in a particular place of transition.
Yes.
You just ended a relationship. You were on a road trip. You were in a place that you were considering would be a nice place to maybe be. And yes. So you were you were open and receptive, and you were asking yourself some of those big questions. Mm-hmm. What's next? And so when you hear ministry, is that like a still small voice? Is that a thought that flashes through? Was that like a deeper soul calling, do you think? Or was it an idea?
I just heard the word ministry, and it resonated with my soul. Mm. That's how it came about. I know there were not angels or white light or anything like that. It was just something that just said to me, ministry. Mm. And then my response back was, God, not that. Again, because I'd been around ministers, and I knew that I knew the life. It was not all this glamorous stuff that sometimes that people think it is. But for me, I think, looking back on that, was that the path of ministry for me is a path of spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. And that it's the path of soul development. And that I've learned things by being in ministry that has really not only enhanced me, but also just brought forth the divine Michael in a wonderful way. Mm-hmm. That maybe that in another career that I wouldn't have been able to. So, I mean, for me, some of the gifts of ministry are some of patience, of learning how to respond rather than react, because I used to be extremely reactive. So to come from a place of response, a lot more patient and kind with individuals, um, just craving quiet time. That's something that I never did before. So
Mm.
that's what I have now. So there's a lot of gifts, and then again, the frustrations sometimes. And again, what I've learned is to have individuals in my life where I can just be completely, totally, 100% honest
Mm.
about what is going on. That there's this thought and new thought that you don't say anything negative. Well, I don't to normal people, to others, but if I have a car with a knock in it, I'm going to tell my mechanic. So that's what I do is I have men in my life, which I'm very honored to have, that I go to on a regular basis and talk to them about what's going on with me, what's going on with Michael, and what's going on with ministry with me. So yeah.
Yeah. So, you're the producer, and I have to ask you, do we need to take a break?
I would say let's go about 5 more minutes. If anyone would like to ask a question, I'm
We love questions.
we love questions. If you could go ahead and put that in the chat. We do have people watching
We
today,
do.
so
That's good.
absolutely, that's
So,
wonderful. Go
okay,
ahead.
um, what what's your ministry look like now? I know that you produce my show. Do you produce other people's shows, and who's that? And share a little bit about this producing as an actual form of ministry and how you frame it up that way. Because to
Right.
some, they may think, what, being a producer of a show, that's a ministry?
I think for me that yes, getting the word out in some form or another is ministry. And also being available to serve people.
Mm.
Um, this is part of what I do. I mean, it's probably about 75% of what I do as far as ministry goes. The other 25% that I haven't talked about was that I do weddings here in northeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and also the panhandle of West Virginia. So you have to, especially over in PA, you have to have certain credentials. You can't just be an internet ordained minister. So that for you to legally sign off on a license over there in Pennsylvania, you must be a regular minister. So I am the person that's usually called, and since there's here in Ohio, again, anybody can get ordained. That
Mhm.
doesn't impress me. What impresses me is when you have gone to some training, when you have been vetted by your colleagues, by your peers, that there's just something to going through the training that for me was extremely important. So that's what my ministry is. I get called in to do weddings for individuals who want a minister slash pastor. So that's the one wedding that I did yesterday was from a very large church here in the area that this young couple were attending, like a small group, for young couples. And for some reason that they wanted to get married, and that some of the individuals at the church, some of the pastors said, well, you're not ready yet. And I said, okay. let's do your ceremony. So, and I told them, I said that if any of them at their church, of which they are active at, gave them any kind of hard time, call me up, and I'll either, again, invite you to my place, to what I'm doing on Sundays, or to find another church for you. See, that's a part of my ministry, is to be able to take people where they're at. Again, I don't try to convert people. I just love them.
Mm.
So I'm doing a wedding this weekend. Yeah, it's for another couple involved in a local church, that it was best that they call in someone completely from the outside, who did have ministerial training, who is a minister, actual profession, and to be able to do their ceremony. So I'm very blessed here. It's really wonderful to be able to do that. And it's because of that. Just doing weddings it's a part of my ministry. It's not all of it, but it's a part of what I'm able to do because of, again, not only my training, but also, my soul growth, where I'm at. I'm able to do that. And I got all kinds of stories about that. And we probably should take a break here in a few moments.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes and pick it up with Michael Mangus.
We'll be right back here on Positively Inspiring New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, thesatyacenter, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
We're back, and I see you've got a question. It's directed to you. Let's see.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Greetings to you both. I've thoroughly enjoyed this interview. Reverend Michael, what's the best advice or guidance you've received that's helped you on your journey from tax collector to minister, or the best advice you'd have given to yourself?
Okay, so we have to do full disclosure here. Catherine Duca is one of the hosts of one of the programs that I produce here on New Thought Media Network on Sunday evenings, called Who Do You Think You Are? and great program. If you, yeah, please come and see that program. It's Catherine's just a wonderful soul. She's a psychotherapist by profession, but I would say slash spiritual counselor. So the question being, what is the best advice? I would say to follow your heart. That is, and that sometimes that's tough to do when you have to pay the bills. But I think the best advice that I've given myself is just um, to keep on keeping on. That no matter what is in front of me, is to go ahead and to keep working on myself spiritually. And again, I'm as spiritual as I'm already going to be. Let's get that out of the way. It's just that my awareness of my own spirituality is a kind of a path. So for me, that path has taken me to ministry, but it's also again just this deepening of my sense of self to myself. So I hope that that makes some sense. But I would say to really um, to follow your heart, to find something that you can give back to the world. Whether it may not be in your normal job. I know for many years, even being down at the as a county tax collector, being in that office, is that many times is because of I was familiar with tax exempt statuses and churches that I was able to really help some of the ministers that came down there with tens of thousands of dollars in back taxes. If you don't file the proper paperwork here in Ohio, that the tax exemption on your church is not automatic. So
Wow.
so I was able then to sometimes take individuals down the hall, take people to the right people. So to be God's presence wherever that you're at. So that meant, again, since I couldn't figure it out how to get to Homes Institute. See, that's a whole nother story. Is that back in I did apply to Homes Institute back in 1999. They wanted me, or the dean wanted me, to go back and get my bachelor's degree. So I went ahead and I got that. I think it's like 2002, 2003. And then I waited. The reason I waited was because that, there were some things in our community. Plus I also couldn't figure out how in the heck I was going to pay for it, because Homes Institute now runs around 35 grand. Now they're not, as of the beginning of next year, Homes Institute, the accredited program, master's degree program, will not be available anymore. They are closing down Homes Institutes. They will be training ministers. It's just again, for me, I was, when I went ahead and I just said, yes, I'm going to do this as far as with the ministry goes, then the money came. So I was able to pay for it. So I would, yes, I would say the best advice is really, and the another bit of advice is get people around you who are cheerleaders and also who are loving enough to take you aside and say, are you sure you really want to do that? That for me, see, that's the important part of community or being apart with other people, is that they're able to go, when you have rapport with others and they with you, is that they're able to go ahead and say, hey, an example of this was a longtime friend here in Akron and a member of our center that we went ahead, I think it was on the phone, that she said, Michael, I've seen you do some really wonderful things in love, and that I'm not sure that that's being expressed in your Facebook posts. That was hard to hear.
Yeah.
And that she felt comfortable enough to be able to do that with me. And I, rather than react, I didn't like it, but I was able to go ahead and say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right. But see, that's, from the, Proverbs in the Jewish Bible or the Old Testament, steel sharpens steel. So that's been the real valuable thing for me is, again, not being in community with other people who not only love me, but who are willing to take me aside and say, are you sure you really want to do that?
Mm.
So that's been a very important part of my growth, again, is being involved in community, is
Yeah.
being with individuals in community, because it's not just the books. It's not just going to classes. It's having that interaction with other individuals. And that's, we're looking here in Akron to expand what we're doing from just online because of COVID, of going back to having something different, something that, again, that we can get together on a regular basis and to have hugs. I miss my weekly hugs.
Yeah. Well, we here at the thesatyacenter, we've been doing a men's circle or spiritual growth group once a month, and a women's called Awakened Hearts. And we do that on the second Sunday of each month. And we did it yesterday. And so I did my women's circle, Michael's men's circle. No one signed up for that, so he went skiing. But we came together at noon for our first workshop, I think, since COVID. So we had 14 people come to a workshop, and it was 2.5 hours. Well, it's 3 hours with lunch. And it was a beautiful coming back together. And we did get in our hugs and cookies and coffee and a nice warm bowl of soup. And we did an amazing workshop. And so I think, I don't know about Akron, Ohio, but here in northern Utah, I think that's where we're going at the thesatyacenter, is to do a monthly, to do the groups, but once a month to do a workshop where we can break bread, where we can dive into some self-empowerment principles, some spiritual practices that can get us more in touch with ourselves and others that are interested in personal development, having a closer connection to their God.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're doing. And I'm still flying high from yesterday's gathering.
And I think that COVID has given us all the opportunity to re-examine this thing we call spiritual community or church or whatever that you want to call it. So one of the wonderful things that I'm involved with through this network is that not only do I produce programs during the week and also help with some of the tech stuff that happens during the week, but I also am on the national media team, where we go to New Thought organizations and we stream their broadcast.
I've seen you doing that.
Conference. Yeah. So International New Thought Alliance, this past year we did Celebrating Our Souls, which is the African American celebration of New Thought, and also Anton, the Associated New Thought Alliance.
New Thought Network.
Affiliated. I'm affiliated. She's the past president, folks. So that's the reason. Yes, Affiliated New Thought Alliance. So network. Okay. I'll take foot out of mouth. All right. So so what I'm noticing here, again, going to conferences, is that everyone is kind of listening about, okay, what's next? So these are some things that I see coming.
Okay, this is what I was really excited to get to. I want to know what your growing edge ideas and thoughts are. and for you to sort of reference those different organizations that you've been attending their conferences or retreats, and you get an up close and personal look in to see
Yes.
what the current New Thought leaders are sharing. So let's have it. Top 5.
Okay. So what the trends are that much of this is going online, and that if you have a physical building, is to have it available to the whole community. If you have a physical building, is to make sure that you're running programs every day of the week. To have an active place, and you'll say, well, how do you do that? You find other communities to nonprofits, other people to rent your space to. You find other churches in this area, and also my mentor's area in California. He rents space to a Hispanic church. So they have, what I'm noticing is the places that are thriving have a lot of activity that serves the greater community, not just the spiritual community. If you have space in your building that, again, that you used to have, like Sunday school for your youth, and you're not using this, maybe that it's time to maybe rent it out to another nonprofit. You can do that under your 501c3 affiliation. Again, check with your tax accountant before you do anything. But there's a lot, again, this whole idea of listening. And the other thing that I'm really getting, and I attend a conference with my mentor every year. This is the second year I went to. It's called Theology Beer Camp.
I know you told me about this.
Yeah. So Theology Beer Camp is it's a kind of it's the idea of Christian theologian Tripp Fuller. And so Tripp gathers probably the cream of the crop as far as Christian religious thought, progressive Christian religious thought. And that there seems to be going on now a deconstruction of people's beliefs around Christianity, that institutions, individuals, belief systems have crumbled. So what do you do to replace it? Well, some of the things that I've seen by going to beer camp is that you have a group of people that are calling themselves atheists or agnostic. There's also a group that's coming forth that's called nuns, not nuns like Catholic nuns, but NONES, spiritual and not religious. Okay, so it's really important you put that "and" in there, because people sometimes get really ticked off because they're saying that they're not. If you say spiritual, not religious, then sometimes that's offensive. So I put spiritual and not religious. So that kind of and again, sometimes people get offended by that. It doesn't mean that they don't have a belief in God. It's just that they don't have it through the regular institutions. So the question that I'm with is, and again, that we have here, especially here at our network, is how do we reach those individuals with, again, if they're ready for it, not forcing it on them, but if they're looking for something else, how can we offer something that's healthy? How can we offer something that is positive and loving and reflects the life of God? That's what we're taking a look at here. Is how do we serve those communities? And the one story that really touched me from last beer camp, this my mentor and I, we were down at breakfast, and we met up with a woman who was there. It was the first time in 15 years that she had been away from her kids.
Wow.
And what had happened was that she was married to a youth pastor, and the shift hit the fan. And that could be a whole lot of things: church politics, disagreements with your lead minister, all kinds of stuff. What happened is they left that church, and that her husband and her older son are now agnostic. And so he was searching for community.
Mm.
So this first time, and I said, you are extremely brave for doing it. So there are people who are searching for community.
Mhm.
So how do we serve individuals doing that? So that's just some of the things that I'm seeing. And again, it's not just within New Thought, but again, by going to other places, for example, like Theology Beer Camp, again, the most brilliant minds out there. And one of the things I'm learning again in progressive Christianity is that the theologians, the people who spend all day long thinking about and searching the scriptures and examining what is going on, that the tide is turning even in the evangelical church about our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, is that they are re-examining the 4 scriptures that are in the Old and New Testament and saying, when you put those in context with the nature of God, that condemning them, saying that they're not born with it. Listen, I have many LGBTQ brothers and sisters and friends, and let me tell you something. Ask them when they were attracted to someone of the same sex, and it's usually very, very early. So it's usually in their early teens, somewhere around there, that they say, you know what, I like boys rather than girls. So, but to really have a heart and one of the things for me is to be a voice for them. It's not just to fight against what's going on out there, but to be a voice for individuals and be the light for them, and say that, yes, there is a practical spirituality that is love. God is love. So there is something here. And again, that's why I think that New Thought is in a very good position to offer that to the world. So
yeah. Well, I know you're looking at the time because you're the producer, and we are right at the end of our show, my friend.
Okay, well, hold on here. We have from the main studio of New Thought Media Network. I think my boss, the Reverend Dr. Robert Brzezinski. Fabulous show. Thank you for your authenticity. Well, thank you very much. Robert and I get along very well. And that I think
he's a great guy.
We have a heart for the world here. This whole network is bigger than just us. We have the opportunity here. People have said, well, New Thought's a big secret. No, it's not a big secret. It's just that other people are getting the message out there before we are. They're taking what we have taught them and get it out there.
Well, it's happening now. And
yes.
You're making it happen. And Robert is, and I am, and all the other hosts of the shows on the New Thought Media Network have amazing voices, amazing content on their shows. And we're so blessed. All of us hosts of shows are so blessed to have you and the other producers that are always supporting us and always helping us to produce quality material. And Robert is an angel, and he is the presence of love.
Right.
And so thank you, both of you, very much.
Yeah. And again, we have other volunteers that you never even hear about on the air.
Mm-hmm.
That really helps support us. But and I just want to offer this kind of as we're ending here, is that if you are interested in either, if you're a New Thought minister or practitioner or teacher, or have some type of spiritual program that you want to present to the world and have no clue how to do it, get a hold of us.
They're awesome.
My email is down there, pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com, or you can get a hold of Reverend Robert at RevBriz, BRZ, RevBriz at ntmedia.org. Either one of us, again, one of the nice things about our network is that we get people on the air. We get them, again, their voice out there. For example, the show that we're doing today, that we convert shows into podcasts. And then what we take and use a podcast distributor that puts them on all the different sites. So that's what I do with Allie's show, is I go ahead and I take Allie's show and we take out all the New Thought Media Network stuff and put it on the interwebs. So again, on all the major platforms. So again, we're able to help. If you have a message, we're able to help you. So again, get a hold of us. We'd love to get a hold of you. Now, I think I know. What is your last question?
Okay. Well, what the world, you've heard the song, and so have I. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. And so here at the Growing Edge, we always want to know, what does the world need now from your perspective?
Absolutely love. Absolutely love. Is that love is the answer. And so how do I reflect that love in my daily doings? How do I reflect my love to my neighbor who I don't like?
No more negative Facebook posts. Huh?
Yeah, no more. Yeah, well, I've been watching that. But basically, is again, how can I, love it? The whole love is patient, love is kind from 1 Corinthians 13. I read that a lot at weddings, but that was meant not for specifically married couples. Paul was saying that it was written for the community. He's saying, this is what happens when love shows up. It's patient, it's kind. It's not haughty or resentful. It's, when you are actually, love is a verb. It's something that you do.
Maybe I'll be adding that to my church bylaws.
Meaning?
the Corinthians passage.
Well, no, I think that is a very, love is patient, love is kind. No, yeah. It's written because, again, the church was fighting about who's the most important. And Paul just went ahead and he said, none of it is. It's important, but this is what's really important. And that is love. So again, yeah.
All right, my love. Well, you heard it here from the mouth of Reverend Michael Mangus. Thank you so much for being my guest at the last minute. And I'm looking forward to next week. We have another wonderful show with Mindy Scranger, author and coach. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just take a moment to love yourself and know that here at Growing Edge Live and New Thought Media Network and the thesatyacenter, we love you, we see you, and we bless you. Namaste. Have a great day.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge.